imagine torn and tattered t-shirts, newspapers from the 90s, sales ads from stores that aren't around anymore, broken blenders, marred magazines, preschool toy packaging, thousands of items that most people would consider trash. Generally, these objects would be found in a garbage can or a long-forgotten landfill. Yet, what happens when these items are treated with a mystical revere, collected like baseball cards or uncommon coins? Articles piled high on every surface available, couches overrun with clothes, kitchen counters and tables alike amassed with papers of every sort imaginable, walkways wide enough for only a single person to walk through, and stacks of boxes that bear down on their prisoners. In this place, this jungle of junk, is a place I called home for 16 years of my life. According to Kathleen Doheny, author of the WebMD article Harmless Pack Rat or Compulsive Hoarder, 2 million Americans are afflicted with compulsive hoarding. We all keep things we don't need. Magazine articles we think we'll someday read, recipes we think we'll make one day, our favorite top that we hope will one day come back in style, or better yet, fit us again. The question is when do we cross the line between harmless pack rat and having a problem that can interfere with every aspect of our lives? My mother has suffered from compulsive hoarding my entire life. I've seen on a daily basis the disabling effects of this disease, not only on her, but on our house and me as well. After further researching this topic, I would like to be able to share with you information about this disease as well as the effects of it. I hope to share with you the causes and effects of compulsive hoarding as well as the treatment options available for compulsive hoarders in hopes of better educating you on a disease that has had such a defining role in my life. Initially, I will discuss the effects of compulsive hoarding. According to the book Overcoming Compulsive Hoarding, there are 3 major areas of life affected by compulsive hoarding. The first is quality of life issues. One of the most common effects in compulsive hoarding is the decline or complete loss of functional living space, or the ability to use household fixtures for their intended purpose. This loss induces the inability to enjoy one's home, instead bringing about the feeling of living in a giant chaotic closet. Many hoarders claim their living space is simply too small to accommodate their collection of belongings and seek other means of storage, which inevitably fill with more junk and become useless as well. Hoarding leads to an increased risk in acquiring health issues such as headaches, allergies, fatigue, insomnia, and respiratory problems like asthma. The sources of these problems is the dust, dirt, molds, and fungi that exist underneath and throughout the clutter that are protected from cleaning and treatment. The weight from the excessive clutter in the house can oftentimes damage the structural integrity of the house. The clutter is often made up in part of flammable objects such as newspapers and magazines that create a huge fire hazard. Not to mention the fire hazard presented in the possessions blocking doorways and windows, preventing safe emergency exiting. In addition, cluttered environments make perfect breeding grounds for vermin, cockroaches, and other pests. Many hoarders often become socially isolated because they are embarrassed by their clutter. Strangers, friends, and families are all barred entrance because of the self-consciousness the hoarder and their family feel. The second is the involvement of the legal system, which can cause loss of belongings, home, and life. In severe cases, when fire hazards and dangerous living conditions are present, law enforcement officials may intervene, oftentimes evicting the hoarder and throwing all of their belongings in a dumpster. Insurance companies refuse to pay claims related to fires in cluttered homes. Liens are placed on houses, forcing the homes to be sold for little or no profit, and in some instances these tactics lead to homelessness or suicide. The third is the effects of hoarding on family members. Clutter causes family problems. Hoarders are often able to justify their hoarding by weighing pros and cons, yet the family members often fail to see the positives because they lack the desire or need for such possessions. Hoarders grow accustomed to living in clutter, and considering it a vital part of their lives, they often make excuses about not having time to organize, blame others for adding to the mess, or claim to give up on keeping a clean house. Blame and resentment run high on both sides. As the clutter consumes the dwelling, the family's frustration with the situation escalates. Not being able to utilize their home and the inability for the family to invite other overs, the control the hoarder possesses over the household, and the inability for any of the family to do anything often result in escalating arguments and often lead to divorce between spouses. Hoarding can cause financial problems because hoarders often will get into debt because they spend massive amounts of money on additional storage spaces or in the fueling of the hoarder's impulse to buy a relatively worthless item. While the exact cause or causes of compulsive hoarding may still be unknown, there are a few theories that are supported by various studies and observations. Compulsive hoarding may be hereditary. According to the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California in San Diego, up to 85% of people with compulsive hoarding can identify another family member who has this problem. It's also thought to be a vicious cycle. According to the Obsessive Compulsive Foundation, people with compulsive hoarding often have difficulty tolerating emotions such as anxiety, grief, and anger. Since these emotions are often triggered by the thought of having to discard a possession, these individuals are motivated to avoid discarding. Acquiring is often associated with positive emotions such as pleasure and excitement, motivating individuals who experience these emotions while acquiring to keep acquiring despite negative consequences. Researchers also believe that compulsive hoarding has a direct correlation to obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now we will explore the different treatment options available to compulsive hoarders. There is presently no cure for compulsive hoarding. However, there are treatments that can help manage the symptoms. Medications are used and shown in some research studies to show results when using antidepressant medications. These medicines increase the level of serotonin activity in the brain. However, people with compulsive hoarding are less responsive to medications than people with other types of obsessive-compulsive symptoms. Cognitive behavior therapy is a technique in which the hoarder is generally exposed to tasks that provoke the fear of making decisions, losing possessions, throwing things away, and organizing belongings in hopes of decreasing the fear. Hoarders are encouraged to refrain from acting in their normal manner, putting off making a decision, saving things just in case, or putting everything in piles rather than organizing them. When successful, this therapy results in decreased anxiety, avoidance, and compulsive behaviors, ultimately changing the way a person views their possessions. The use of medications alongside behavior therapy is shown to be the most effective. In this speech, I've explored the effects and causes of compulsive hoarding, as well as possible treatments for those who suffer from compulsive hoarding. We all collect useless junk. But there's a difference between being a harmless pack rat and being a person afflicted with the debilitating disease of compulsive hoarding.